Watashi wa ga Jinpo ga daisuki. Don't put that shit in Google Translate, please. You're gonna get, you don't want that in your history. But anyways, anime and its power systems have been most of them make sense ever since Hunter x Hunter. I feel like some of them like follow a certain guidebook. Anime is supposed to have a balanced power system. A lot of these animes kind of don't really have that, or they just kind of throw it out the window when they want to make their self-insert main character. They'll be like, oh, here's the power system and all of this, and the main character, he counters all of that thing. He doesn't even follow any of the rules, and he's OP. Have fun reading this. And that is just not fun. It is just not fun. So that's why when I saw this video right here, I said, you know what? I am all up for slander of these garbage power system of animes that we have nowadays. So without further ado, man, let's dig into this.
Every power system needs a leash. No matter how creative or innovative your abilities are, without some kind of limiter, your battles will lose their most essential ingredient. That is, their tension. To solve this, almost nearly every shonen relies on the same trope, an energy system. Think of chakra, mana, ki, cursed energy. The name changes, but the idea is always the same. An invisible battery that keeps battles in check. I like to use a bucket and tap analogy. Let me cook here. Every character is carrying around an invisible bucket that is filled with their respective energy system. Some characters' buckets are huge, while some are tiny, which is usually down to genetics, training, or both. Meanwhile, the tap controls how much of that energy a character can release at once. So someone with a small bucket but large tap might be able to unleash one massive attack before being drained dry, while someone with a large bucket but with a narrow tap can keep pumping out weaker moves almost endlessly. Of course, many power systems don't stop there, rightfully so. Some go deeper, introducing other variables like replenishment speed, which is how quickly your bucket fills back up. Efficiency, how much energy actually translates into power versus how much is wasted. Or control, how precisely a character can manage the flow of their energy. These are all ideas that
I feel like that's the same as the other one of the efficiency. I feel like, well, most of the time when they do it, they just kind of say that, oh, he gained better control, so he's not wasting as much energy. I feel like it's the same as the overall efficiency or control that they have. I think like those could be grouped together, but that is entirely true. I mean, I don't know if a lot of you guys can remember, and I'm just gonna be very specific off of this one, but the best, the absolute best arc of Naruto was the pain arc. I know, how basic of me. I understand. But it was the best because the fight and like the stakes and everything, it was so good. But the fight had like a limit. Naruto had his limit, and you know, most of the series he doesn't have a limit. He just goes, oh no, I'm getting my ass beat. Nine Tails, just and he just busts that shit out, and it's an instant win button all the time, like consistently, except that one on the Valley of the End when he fought Sasuke. There it wasn't a just a win button, but regardless, he had this limitation that he cannot control the nature energy all that well this time, so he needed his shadow clones over there, and he had a limit. At the start of the battle, we know that he has a certain number of these clones, and if he runs out of them, it's GG's. That was so good because as the fight carried on, you were like, oh, he used one. Oh, he's down another. Is he going to be able to take all of these paths down with just the energy that he has right now? And of course, you know, the answer was no. He gets bailed out by the Nine Tails, as he does. But, you know, regardless of that, it was still just the funnest part about that whole series. It was the part where he had the Sage mode, and it had, like, you know, you had in the back of your mind, you're like, all right, he has this much, he has this much. Oh, we're running out. What is he gonna do now? And it adds a limiter. It adds a limiter, and it makes it funner to watch.
Encourage any writer to blend into their power system. Together, these reveal the true purpose and strength of an energy system, that is to blend fights with an essential element of strategy. Characters can't just recklessly spam their strongest moves forever. They have to conserve, to gamble, and sometimes to risk running out at the worst possible moment. At their best, these systems don't just make fights more intense, they dictate the outcome of the fights themselves. But at their worst, these systems blend into background noise, often revealing plot convenience or outright contradictions. So, how do you make a good energy system? What are some examples of the best energy systems in anime, and where do authors often go wrong? Well, in this video, that's exactly what we're going to find out. So stick around, you might just learn something important. Chakra is the energy system of Naruto, and in all fairness, one of the most well thought out energy systems in all of shonen. While it does get a bit weird towards the end.
Nah, one of the best thought out ones is Hunter x Hunter's. You cannot tell me otherwise. Hunter x Hunter's power system, it is the absolute best in my eyes. If you want to give something, you have to take away something from yourself. That's what... Yeah, I worded that horribly. But you know, the limiters, the little contracts that you placed up on yourself, the little thingies, the vows or whatever the hell, those were so good. If you wanted to have like a lot of power in this one thing, you have to be like, all right, I'm placing this limitation upon myself. And it was entirely balanced. It was so good. But Naruto's, I guess it makes sense. I like the chakra points. I like the spirit, the body, and the mind and all of that. They just kind of threw that out the window, though. If we're really being honest here, they just threw all of that out the window. Chakra points, obsolete once Naruto Shippuden came into view. The Hyuga just became entirely irrelevant. So the chakra points and all that, locking them down, useless. So that's an entire part of the system down the drain. Now the power, the mind, body, and soul and all that, nah, it's just nature energy and the chakra energy. Those are the only ones that mattered. Screw it, throw in like the sage jutsus and all of that at the end, but like they didn't really matter. It was just another form of chakra. It was just that. So all of those things just became so irrelevant and just went down the drain. As much as I love and glaze Naruto all over the Schlanger Donger, it's just it's a criticism that they just can't avoid.
And all, Kishimoto still managed to create an energy system that far surpassed its contemporaries. Chakra is defined as a combination of a person's physical energy and spiritual energy, which can be refined and molded to produce techniques called jutsu. It is the battery behind every technique in the series, from the most basic cloning jutsu to the most destructive forbidden arts. Every ninja has a limited pool, and the size of that is massively influenced by genetics and natural talent, and maybe a bit of training, because Kishimoto couldn't decide if he wanted to make a Nepo baby fanfiction or a hard work beats talent narrative. Regardless of that, in the early series, this system truly shines. Chakra is a lot more involved, actively serving character conflicts and strategy. One of the earliest examples of this happens within the Land of the Waves arc.
One of the best arcs, man. I don't care what anybody says. People will say that they'll just overlook this because it was like at the beginning of Naruto. So and it doesn't have like big, massive fights and flashy things. So people just kind of overlook this arc, but they forget that this is the reason why Naruto was just so good. It was so good because of like these arcs right here. I mean, just the starter ones. I mean, of course, Lee versus Gaara. Oh, baby. Oh, come on, man. But this one right here, it gave you like the perspective of the limiters and strategy that you were supposed to like expect in future fights. But you know, whatever. I'm not salty about that whatsoever. It was so good. It was so good. The Genin, as in like Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura, they were just holding back Kakashi that entire fight, and you could feel it. You could feel that like they were in out of their depth. You could feel like those were like men, And we're just fucking kids on this other side, man. But on the other side of this whole ordeal, they won because of Naruto and Sasuke at the end. Their outplay and like the whole thingy, the the transformation shuriken and everything, it let you know that they had to be smart. They had to outwit him in some way possible. And the outwitting wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna do this, blah, 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 and then we're gonna get him and we're gonna win. No. The outwit, the entire play of transforming Sasuke, of transforming Naruto through that whole shuriken, it was just to free Kakashi. The whole outplay was not to win the battle. It was to free him so that he could win the battle. And it was so good. That's I'm just like laser for this arc, by the way.
Chakra is a very active element of that fight. Without the strain of chakra, Kakashi would easily be able to handle Zabuza and Haku by himself. But due to the massive amounts of chakra his Sharingan requires, and his otherwise average reserves, the longer the fight drags out, the more dangerous it becomes for him due to exhaustion. His chakra limitations are the key reason his students, the protagonists, even matter in this fight. Or take Naruto vs Neji, which happens a couple arcs later. One element of chakra that makes it more interesting is its biological connection. Your chakra flows out of Tenketsu points, and someone like Neji through the gentle fist.
I hate this fight. Sorry. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I mean, other than the fact that all of the points, all of the values that Naruto stands for, or whatever the whole, you're not determined to, when you're born, you're not determined to like, God damn it, how am I gonna phrase this? His whole point is that your destiny is not set in stone the moment you are born. That your choices that's what shape your future, and it's not how you're born. But he was born as son of the Hokage, the reincarnation of like a demigod, of like, and gets the nine tails inside of him. And then Neji dies protecting the family as he was afraid of doing. He was scared that that's what his life was just gonna be, that he was just gonna be just serving the main family branch the whole time. And he died doing that. He died protecting Hinata. Other than, I mean, that's just the ideology part of it that got completely invalidated later on in the seasons. But the overall fight itself, Neji should have won. Absolutely, he should have won. Neji shut down all the chakra points. He played the power system fair and square, landed on Naruto fair and square, and Naruto gets cheesed out by the Nine Tails chakra. I mean, whatever.
Is capable of closing off those points, which essentially seals away your chakra. So when Neji does this to Naruto, it should essentially finish the fight. But Naruto manages to somewhat plan ahead, using his secondary external source of chakra, the Nine-Tailed Fox, to completely catch Neji by surprise, which alongside the smart use of clone jutsu is the turning point that allows him to win the fight. In both of these moments, chakra works perfectly. It is a clear limiter that separates characters in unique ways, and creates tensions whenever those reserves start to run dry. You truly feel the weight of every move because chakra is a finite, meaningful resource. But as the series scales up, chakra begins to lose that meaning. What started as a clever limiter becomes more of a background detail, conveniently mentioned or ignored depending on the moment. The series does alright through Shippuden, but the illusion of chakra's importance really begins to fall apart completely during the war arc. Take Susanoo, a literal massive suit of pure chakra that serves as both the perfect offense and the perfect defense. Rightfully, it is an incredibly taxing ability, described as your every cell being on fire and requiring an absurd amount of chakra to use. Maybe not. Sasuke used it for hours at a time, but it still has the weakness of slowly blinding the user, returning that essential element of no, never mind. He got past that. Well, at the very least, you still need the Sharingan to use it, right? It'd be ridiculous if a character who had, say, lost both of their eyes was still somehow capable of using a technique that literally requires special eyes to be used. Nah, that would never happen. At a point, the war arc essentially becomes a display of long-range nuclear warfare, because by the end of the series, chakra is such a non-issue that characters can literally spam mountain range obliterating attacks without so much as breaking a sweat. Their taps become as wide as the
That's how you know it all entirely got ruined, man. That's when you know right there. Oh, it just after that, after you see characters doing that, like, what do you even do after that? Why is Kiba still a thing with his garbage ass dog next to him? What are they gonna do? Why is Shino still a thing with his bugs? What are they gonna do when you have characters out here just blasting mountains? I'm entirely salty about them, about everything that went down there and the war. But by the way, but you know,
the Grand Canyon, and their buckets become, well, infinite. At the very least, Kishimoto did seem to remember his energy system at the very final portion of the series, at Sasuke and Naruto's final battle. And it's that very last sequence that made me remember what I loved about this series. Not the country-shattering explosion that happened an episode prior, but the strategies, desperation, and tactical depth applied by both characters at the very end. And that's the tragedy of Naruto's chakra system. What once began as one of the most balanced and narratively rich limiters in shonen ended up collapsing under the weight of escalating power creep. If there's one thing Jujutsu Kaisen absolutely nailed from start to finish, it would be its power system. More specifically, its consistency with the series' energy system. In Jujutsu Kaisen, humans naturally produce curse energy, which is an internal energy born from negative emotions. Most people just leak it unconsciously, which in turn gives birth to cursed spirits. But sorcerers, the main profession of this verse, are capable of harnessing this energy, using it to fuel their cursed techniques. It's a simple yet effective setup. What makes cursed energy stand out is its versatility, because in practice, it is far more than just an invisible stamina bar. Cursed energy is the very reason a lot of the main antagonists exist. I mean, they're made out of the thing, and is capable of being weaponized to such an extent that Yuji Itadori for the vast majority of the series was capable of relying purely on raw cursed energy to keep up with the scale of the plot. Even beyond that, the system constantly expands in innovative, consistent ways. What happens when you flip cursed energy? Well, you get positive energy, which is capable of being used for healing or reversing the effects of your techniques. If you manage to time your cursed energy application just right, well, you can land a Black Flash, which is essentially a critical strike with devastating multipliers.
I completely understand if people are gonna hate on me for this one, but I never really liked curse energy. I just didn't. I hate power systems that are just like gate kept, but like, if you want to use the entire power system here, you have to be born that way. I just never really liked this, but like everybody's leaking the cursed energy, but only these types of people can control it. I'm sorry, how does that even work? What happens if all of these guys die? Do we all just leak it out and like that's it? We're just doomed? It's not really well thought out on that sense. But then you know you have you have Toji who can't even use it, but he's just that good that he got like heavenly restricted, and they have this other things. Are other humans heavenly restricted because we all can't control it? How does that work? What do we all get? And it just makes no sense. I mean, if the regular person can't possibly like see or control their cursed energy, but somehow we're all just still leaking it, does that mean they get a heavenly restriction? What's our heavenly restriction? Other than that, it just never made sense to me. I understand that there should be abilities that are like lineage based. Like, of course, we all have like differences, and that's just biology. The Sharingan and everything. Okay, that makes sense. You know, it makes sense that a certain clan, through inbreeding and some questionable incest, that they kept, their special eyes like in their clan. That makes total sense. It makes sense for, we all have our differences, and those differences should make, exclusive benefits in a power system. But when you have one that is supposed to fit, like, everybody, that is just the base power system, and everybody fights within this power system, and you have the great majority of people just like, this is the power system, and like, this is everybody, but everybody is supposedly contributing to this power system, but they themselves can't control it. It's like, well, what happens if you just take out that people right there? What happens with all of these people? Well, are they just doomed? Are they just messed up right now?
Some characters forego cursed energy entirely, gaining heavenly restrictions, which massively boost their physicality instead. Every addition feels like a natural extension of the same core rules, not a contradiction. But what I truly love and appreciate about cursed energy is how much it actually decides fights. One of the most prevalent cases of this actually comes about from domain expansions. They're almost always instant win conditions, an ability that guarantees your every attack will land. But here's the catch: they massively drain the user of their cursed energy, leaving them vulnerable once they collapse. So look at Mahito versus Yuji and Todo. Mahito's final loss to Yuji isn't just because Yuji overpowered him. It's because Mahito spent his energy recklessly during the fight, stacking high-cost move after high-cost move until he had nothing left. The fight's outcome was dictated as much by resource management as it was by raw strength. So from output to efficiency, to control and reinforcement, to reverse techniques, and to heavenly restrictions, cursed energy is one of the most consistent and well-developed energy systems in modern shonen. It's not just a limiter, it's the foundation of every battle in the story itself. And honestly, I encourage any author to use it as a blueprint when designing their own. So far, we've looked at an energy system with a strong foundation that eventually lost its way, and another that stayed consistent from start to finish. But now, let's look at an energy system that was weak almost from the ground up. Mana from solo leveling. And to be clear, I'm not talking about the mana used by other characters in the verse. I mean specifically Sun Jingwoo's mana, which is connected to the system. His abilities are modeled after video game mechanics, and so his mana bar functions exactly like you'd expect. A generic stamina bar that drains whenever he casts a skill or summons his army. And that's where the problem begins. In other series like Naruto or Jujutsu Kaisen, the energy system manages to evolve beyond just being a limiter. They branch into their series' respective world building, and are capable of being used for countless other forms of utility, from sticking to walls or being timed right to land critical hits, these being additional uses that create tension and creativity in battle. Jinwoo's mana system is entirely just a number on a stat screen. There are no clever interactions, no secondary uses, nothing. It exists purely as a meter. But the meter at least does its job, right? Like, that's the point of the video. Surely, it realistically and fairly limits Jinwoo's use of his abilities. No, not really. The cycle is the same each time. Jinwoo fights a boss that conveniently has an army of minions that his shadows can aura farm on. The boss wipes out the rest of the shadows, Jinwoo's mana runs low, and he turns to the camera and says some shit like, "Guess I'm going solo on this one." And then he solos it, name of the series appears, roll credits, absolute cinema, just give it anime of the year.
Hand it over.
Anime of the year. This gets even worse when you realize this fake tension doesn't even matter half the time. Jinwoo can literally buy an infinite stockpile of mana potions that instantly refill a portion of his mana bar. So the system fails at its only job of being a limiter. And while that works for hype, it makes for one of the weakest energy systems in modern anime storytelling. It feels much more like an afterthought than a system actually crafted to enhance the story. At the very least, there seems to be another version of mana present in the story that is much more intertwined with the series lore. But because none of the other characters actually matter, it's not even that relevant in the first place. At the end of the day,
Yeah, no, that's entirely fair. That makes a whole lot of sense. You know, I never really thought about it with solo leveling because it's just like when I watch solo leveling, I just turn off my brain and I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm just gonna watch this, and I just go unga bunga, and I'm like, ah, there's my goat aura forming as he does. But you know, I never really thought. I'm like, oh, where's the limiter in this? You know, I never really think about that because honestly, like, I don't really care. I don't really care when I watch that show. Now, if it's something like much more serious, where I'm like emotionally invested, like, you know, Naruto, Hunter x Hunter, and all of these other things, then yeah, it would take me out if the power system didn't make sense. But in the defense of Hunter x Hunter, in Hunter x Hunter, of solo leveling, I don't really care, honestly. Like, he's supposed to be overpowered. You know, that's kind of like his whole ordeal. He's supposed to be just out of this world, makes no sense, breaks every, like, every comprehension, and that's his whole shtick. So it makes sense. In their defense, it makes sense that he can just infinitely buy them, and mana it's just kind of like an afterthought for him. That makes entire sense, and I will defend that one. On the other ones, though, no sir. No, Naruto needed to do better. Jujutsu Kaisen's, you know, he glazed it. I know a lot of people glaze it too. As soon as somebody explains to me how that power system is supposed to work, I will I will glaze it too. The story and everything and the characters, 10 out of 10. I'm not judging that. 10 out of 10. The designs, Gojo, he can cream pie so many women, dude, but but the overall, like, that's what I always concern myself with when I'm watching like something and I want to get like invested in the world. I need to know the world. I need to know the average person. Like, what, when I watch One Piece, I know what the average person is doing. You know, they made a whole love letter to that. I know what they're doing. And I understand that. I'm like, okay, that's what they're doing. That makes sense. I'm invested. Naruto's and all of that, I'm like, well, this is just so unfair. I mean, why would I go out there and fight when I'm not an Uchiha and I don't have a tailed beast inside of me? Nobody else mattered unless they were Uchiha or had tailed beasts. Nobody else mattered. Of course, you could say the first Hokage, he mattered a lot. Man, he was the first Hokage, man. Like, he was straight up broken. They just gave him random bullshit abilities for no reason. Wood style pacifies tailed beasts? That doesn't even make any goddamn sense. I'd at least make it make sense. Water? The water Hokage should have done that. That's what I'm saying. Like, water? Okay, water is soothing. Makes sense. Wrap it up in a bow. It makes sense that it would soothe them. Sure, whatever. Throw some ice in there to like incapacitate them. I would understand if he did it, you know, because in Avatar: The Last Airbender, water makes sense that it heals. Water is soothing. Sure, whatever. All of that adds up. Wood? Why would wood do that? It makes no goddamn sense. And just magically, he just, for no reason, he has like all the chakra in the world to make like a 15 mountaintop Buddha statue that can move, even though it's made out of wood. It's supposed to be solid. Why can it move? Other than that, man, I'm just digging into Naruto now, man. I don't know what's happening to me. But power systems should have some limit onto them. When you watch like an isekai anime that is like really bad, and the guy just like, oh, I have this ability that lets me use my magic and transform it into this thingy. But this thingy could just replenish my magic, and I can still keep transforming all of these things and make infinite power. Oh my god! Glaze me, 16-year-old girls! Glaze me! I'm gonna dig into them because it's poor. It's poorly written. I don't care. It's so bad. That's all I wanted to say. This is a great video. I just had to disagree in just the Jujutsu Kaisen part. He should have glazed Hunter x Hunter way more. That should have been a main part in this video. That's my only gripe. Alright, see you in the next one, man.